In the dim recesses where light barely brushes through, a tragedy of nature unfolds, one that is both grotesque and fascinating in its raw brutality. Here, a dog lies amid decaying leaves, a silent victim of a nightmare far beyond ordinary affliction. Its flesh, once soft and warm, now bears the macabre signature of a sinister invader, a wound so ravaged and pulsating with infected tissue that it seems to breathe with a life of its own. The source of this horror is not merely a rattlesnake strike or a venomous fangs bite, but a persistent snake infestation set deep within the tissue, turning the dog's own body into a gruesome host for a deadly biotic siege. At first glance, the wound is a cavernous abyss, a festering maw where pus mingles with blood, and the sharp tang of decay saturates the air. Tiny serpents, serpentine carrion feeders, or larvae born from microscopic eggs, writhe with disturbing vitality in the moist necrotic regions, feeding on flesh and secreting enzymes that dissolve tissue faster than the body's feeble defenses can muster. The skin surrounding the gash is slack and distorted, mottled with bruises and darkened veins, as if the dog's life is being siphoned through a grim vascular highway adorned with tiny slithering horrors. This is the grim consequence of what might be termed a snake infestation, an aberration where parts of a snake or snake larvae, perhaps from eggs laid close to the animal's wound in the wild, colonize and fester. Normally, snakes are apex predators, not parasites. Yet here, we observe nature's cruelty, inverted snakes, or their unsavory offspring turning into grotesque scavengers. In microscopic and macroscopic detail, these invaders burrow beneath the epidermis. In the vast, untamed wilderness, where the sun casts long shadows over the rolling plains, a solitary bison roams, its massive frame, a testament to the resilience of nature. But this is no ordinary bison. It bears a gruesome wound, a horrific testament to the relentless forces of the natural world. Nestled deep within the thick, shaggy fur of its flank is a wasp nest, a pulsating mass of chaos and decay. The sight is both shocking and fascinating, a macabre reminder of the brutal realities of life in the wild. As the camera zooms in, the viewer is drawn into a world where survival is a constant battle, and the line between life and death is often blurred. The wasp infestation is a gruesome spectacle. These tiny, aggressive creatures have made their home within the bison's flesh, burrowing into the soft tissue and laying their eggs in a grotesque symbiosis of life and death. The bison, a creature that once roamed freely, now finds itself a host to a swarm of parasitic invaders. The wasps, with their sharp stingers and relentless nature, wreak havoc on the bison's body, causing excruciating pain and suffering. As the larvae hatch, they feast on the bison's flesh, creating a gaping wound that oozes with infection and decay. The sight is enough to make even the most hardened viewer recoil in horror, yet it is a stark reminder of the harsh realities of nature. In this dark dance of life, the bison's plight serves as a chilling metaphor for the interconnectedness of all living things. The wasps, driven by instinct, fulfill their role in the ecosystem, while the bison, despite its suffering, continues to roam the plains, a symbol of endurance. Yet, as we observe this gruesome spectacle, in the quiet shadow of a forgotten forest, where sunlight barely pierces the thick canopy, a dog lay twisted in a landscape of nightmares, a living canvas marked by grotesque wounds, a terrifying testament to an unholy tryst between predator and prey, and the indifference of nature itself. His body, once proud and agile, is now a grotesque map of suffering, ravaged by a relentless snake infestation that explores his flesh like tiny, sinister cartographers. The initial sight forces you to pull back, a visceral jolt of discomfort that resonates not just from horror, but from the primal fascination humans have with decay and survival. This is no ordinary injury. It is a macabre tapestry of infection and parasitism, a chronicled battle where survival hangs on the thread of cruel fate. The dog's fur, matted and soaked with a mixture of blood and pus, curls around the gaping wounds which reveal festering depths of flesh that pulsate with the activity of dozens of small serpents, scaling the surface of his skin with silent, slimy precision. The snake infestation is not an invasion of exotic evil, but a weaving together of natural consequences. Snakes, driven by hunger and instinct, have latched onto the vulnerable, their slender bodies burrowing into necrotic tissue, their jaws unhinging to accommodate dying flesh. These reptilian parasites feed not with venom in this case, but by exploiting the host's compromised immune system, carving out niches between muscle fibers and seeping deeper into the meat, turning the dog's body into a grotesque. In the stark, white wilderness where the air is as sharp as broken glass, a silent harbinger of nature's harsher realities creeps beneath the veil of pristine ice. Imagine, if you will, the majestic polar bear, once the untouchable monarch of the frozen realms, now bearing an odious affliction, its flesh grotesquely invaded by an unlikely enemy bees. At first glance, the image is irrational, nightmarish even. Bees and polar bears, worlds apart in rhythm and realm, colliding in a ruthless, visceral spectacle of decay. Yet, this awful coexistence is no figment of twisted fantasy, but a startling, twisted truth of survival and symbiosis gone awry in a changing world. You gaze upon the bear's shoulder, a mangled fortress of honeycomb and stingers, the hive a nightmare concocted from wax, and the bear's own scarred flesh pulses with a sickening life. Flies buzz in a macabre chorus, drawn to the putrefying mixture of sweat, blood, and honey that oozes relentlessly from the gaping wound. The honeycomb's waxy cells glisten not with the promise of sweetness, but the essence of infection, a cohabitation of carnivorous nature and relentless parasitism. This is no mere abrasion. It's a chronic, festering infestation that gnaws at the bear's health and status, turning a symbol in the stark, icy expanse of the Arctic, where the sun barely pierces the endless twilight. A chilling tale unfolds, a tale of survival, suffering, and the grotesque realities of nature. Meet the polar bear, a majestic creature often seen as the embodiment of strength and resilience. But today, we encounter a bear that tells a different story, one that is both horrifying and fascinating. This bear, once a proud hunter of the frozen tundra, now bears a horrific wound, a gaping, festering sore that has become a breeding ground for snakes. Yes, you heard that right, snakes. In a bizarre twist of fate, this bear has become an unwilling host to a snake infestation, a phenomenon that is as shocking as it is rare. As we delve deeper into this unsettling scenario, we find that the snakes, likely seeking warmth and shelter, have burrowed into the bear's flesh, creating a grotesque tableau of nature's harsh realities. The sight is enough to turn the stomach serpents writhing in and out of the wound, their scales glistening with the bear's blood, a macabre dance of life and death. The bear, weakened and in agony, struggles to shake off its slithering parasites. But the infestation has taken hold, feeding off its very essence. This is not just a battle for survival. It is a grim reminder of the fragility of life in the wild. The scientific community has long been fascinated by such occurrences, where the lines between predator and prey blur in the most unexpected ways. The snakes, perhaps a species drawn to the warmth of the bear's body, have found an unusual niche, exploiting the bear's vulnerability. In the remote wilds, where survival is a relentless, often gruesome battle, a silent horror unfolds beneath the sprawling canopy. This is no ordinary tale of nature's serene beauty, but a macabre vignette of suffering and invasion etched into the flesh of one of the planet's most majestic giants. Here stands an elephant, a colossal being, typically a symbol of strength and endurance, marred by a terrible wound, unlike any battle scar born from the usual predators. Instead, this elephant is host to a festering hive of bees, a grotesque and disturbing infestation that turns its skin into a grotesque mosaic of swollen flesh, oozing pus, and thrumming insect activity. This is not a typical scene of nature's harmony. This is the raw, unsettling interface of life and decay, where an unlikely parasite reigns in a dark symbiosis. Imagine the elephant's vast hide, usually leathery and tough, now ruptured and violated by tens of thousands of tiny, buzzing invaders. The hive itself is a twisted fortress of honeycomb, embedded painfully into the cracks of the elephant's wounds, festering with a thick, sticky excretion that glistens with a sickly sheen of rot and decay. Each hexagonal cell is stuffed with larvae, and worker bees relentlessly busy, thriving on this repugnant amalgamation of damaged flesh and decaying tissue. The buzzing, usually a tranquil and life-affirming murmur in the wild, becomes here a sinister soundtrack, the music of relentless torment and brutal invasion. This infliction is a grim spectacle that forces us to reconsider the brutal realities of wildlife existence. These creatures, generally celebrated for their role in pollination and honey production, here act less like pollinators and more like macabre intruders. They exploit the elephant's injury, transforming what should be an open wound into a grotesque bee metropolis. The insect's waxy secretions and venom-converted flesh intertwining in a dark dance of parasitism. The elephant's immune response, usually a formidable defense, is overwhelmed. Its thick skin and massive body now work against it, harboring the hive that thrives